Last class we learned all about the protein group, and today we'll be learning about another group. And to help you guess which group that will be, I have a clue right next to me, a skeleton. And a skeleton is made of bones. So what food group helps our bones the most? The dairy group, and the dairy group is our last group on my plate that we have not yet discussed. So today we will be learning all about the importance of eating food that belong in the dairy group and what it does for our body. So obviously with the skeleton to my right, you can tell that the dairy group helps our bones to be strong and healthy, right? It helps to store up the calcium inside of our bone and make our bone be strong and more dense so that when impact takes place, you trip, fall, maybe you fall off a swing at recess or trip at a soccer game, and your bones have the strength they need to prevent breaking. Another thing that the dairy group helps in our body is our teeth. Now, it is important to brush our teeth, and you learn at the dentist that eating too much sugar is bad for your teeth. But just like preventing cavities by not eating too much sugar, you can also strengthen your teeth by eating foods that belong in the dairy group, because both your teeth and your bones need calcium and vitamin D to be strong, healthy, and function properly. But before we get started, let's practice an experiment with a food from the dairy group. For this experiment today, we will be turning milk into plastic. This is a really simple experiment you can do at home. First, you will start with 1 cup of warmed milk. You don't want this milk to be too hot, so I measured 1 cup and I warmed it in the microwave for 1.5 minutes and poured it into my bowl. And then we're going to be adding 4 tablespoons of vinegar. And now the reaction that we're going to be seeing is the acidity from this vinegar is going to bind to the proteins in the milk, and it's going to cause it to turn into a plastic-like substance. So I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of vinegar right into my milk. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, you can already see it's starting to coagulate. See that vinegar is already starting to bind with that protein. You can see it kind of lumping together. See that reaction? All right, now I'm going to mix it for 1 minute. Start my timer, and we're just going to mix, and this is just allowing the vinegar to reach all of that milk and allow the most coagulation. Okay, and now we're going to take this strainer, and this strainer is going to help strain out all of the liquid. It will fall through, and then all the plastic that we're forming, plastic-like substance, will be strained and left in here. So I'm going to take my separate bowl and I'm going just to pour in this substance. You can see that it's not all seeping through. We have that binding that's sticking and staying in that strainer. You can see all of the formation that's taking place. And now I'm just going to use a spoon or a fork or anything that you have just to help press that liquid through. So it'll take a couple minutes for it to all strain through and all of the solid to remain in the top of our strainer. And then we'll dry it and form it. Okay, I have most of our liquid out here. You can see this solid that's formed, and I'm just pressing with my spoon to get any remaining liquid out. The less liquid, the better. And then we're gonna dry it on a paper towel. So you can see how much formed from just that 1 cup of milk and those 4 tablespoons of vinegar. We have that much solid formed, and then the liquid that's strained out is remaining in our bowl. And now I'm going to take this solid mixture. Remember, this is the protein in the milk that binded to the acidity in the vinegar. So that's what we're left with here. We turned a liquid into a solid. And now we are going to dry it even more. So I'm going to place my liquid right onto this paper towel, and I'm just gonna pat out any remaining liquid. Now, if you wanted to color your plastic, this is when you would do it. You could add like red or blue or green or whatever color of food coloring, just a tiny little bit. You don't want to add too much liquid, remember. But you could color it here. We're just gonna leave it white just for time's sake. But know that if you wanted to color it, this would be the time you do it. All right. And as we pat out all that liquid, the solid begins to bind to itself even more, and we're left with kind of like a Play-Doh substance here. So you can see it even smells like plastic. Kind of cool, like a rubbery smell. And we're left with a plastic ball. You could let this dry and you'd have some type of a bouncy ball, or I've seen it done where you can flatten it out and use a shape to cut it out and let it dry, and then you could paint it. You could use it for decoration or just for fun. This is a great experiment, something cool you can do at home to learn about science, coagulation, protein with 2 simple ingredients. So give this experiment a try at home. Did you enjoy that experiment? Pretty cool that you can create plastic with just 2 simple ingredients, right? Hopefully you're able to try this experiment at home. Well, let's get started with our lesson. Like I said, today we'll be talking all about the dairy group, which belongs on my plate. And surprise, this is our last food group that we have talked about for my plate for this year. The dairy group provides our bones and our teeth with strength from calcium and from vitamin D. Now, we need a certain amount of dairy foods or sources of vitamin D and calcium for our body to function properly. It is essential for our body for it to function properly. Now, your body begins to absorb calcium when you're a young child up until you stop growing. So when you get to be my age, my body's not absorbing calcium anymore, which makes it so important for you to be having calcium right now so that your bones are storing up calcium to help you throughout the rest of your life. Now, your bones when you're born are very fragile. They're small and they're very easily broken. They're not big and they're not very strong. And as you grow, they begin to lengthen and thicken. If you look at these 2 sticks, which we're pretending are similar to bones, you can tell which one would be harder to break, right? This thin, flimsy stick would break much easier and quicker than this thicker, stronger stick. And how we can strengthen our bones and make them more like this thicker, stronger stick is by filling our bones with calcium and vitamin D. Our bones are similar to a bank. It stores up calcium like a piggy bank saves up money, and you're able to use it throughout your life when your body needs calcium. If you're not eating enough calcium, your body will pull the calcium from your bones to have it for the different functions throughout your body that require calcium. Let's see how well you do at finding the dairy foods in my meals. Okay, so I'm going to pretend for breakfast that I had some pancakes and some milk to drink and eggs and strawberries. Hopefully this was easy for you to guess, right? Milk is like the easiest thing to guess in the dairy group. It contains lots of calcium and vitamin D and is super simple to get. You can drink it for each of your meals and you'll have all the calcium you need for that day. Remember, we need 3 servings of calcium a day, and we'll be playing a game a little later to see what 1 serving looks like. But before we get started with that, let me show you my plate and a breakfast that I had, and let's see if you're able to find the dairy food. I have, let's say I had a glass of water with pancakes, eggs, grapes, and yogurt. Yogurt would be my dairy food, correct? So a really easy way to guess a food that belongs in the dairy group is to know if it is made with milk. So eggs, not made with milk, does not belong in the dairy group, but milk and cheese and yogurt and even ice cream in small amounts, since it contains a lot of added sugar as well. Let's see how well you do at some different meals and seeing if you can locate the dairy food in these meals. How did you do? Were you able to locate the dairy foods in each of these meals? Hopefully this wasn't too difficult for you. So we talked a little earlier about how we need 3 servings a day. of dairy food so that our body gets that calcium that it needs. How I like to remember these 3 servings a day is I curl my fingers like I'm holding a glass of milk. So this is how I always remember 3 servings a day. But what exactly does a serving look like? I'm sure you've learned in science about what a pound looks like, what 1 cup, a teaspoon, a tablespoon, each of these different amounts. But what does a serving mean? What does that constitute? This can look different for different foods belonging in the dairy group. So we are going to play a game. When I say go, you guys will stand up, and in each of the corners of the classroom, there is a sign posted by the PE teacher. Each of these signs say a certain serving size, like 1 cup, 2 cups, 1 ounce, 1/3 of a cup. When I tell you the dairy food, you're going to guess what 1 serving of that food looks like. I will give you 30 seconds to choose your corner, kind of like playing 4 corners. So you'll run to the corner that you think, and you have 30 seconds to get there. Make your best guess, and we'll see how well you do. All right, stand up, and let's get started. The first food that you're going to make a guess of is milk. What do you think 1 serving of milk looks like? You have 30 seconds to choose the correct corner. Ready, set, go. How'd you do? 1 cup's pretty simple, right? Hopefully that was pretty easy to guess. Your next food to guess is shredded cheese. How much shredded cheese constitutes 1 serving? Make your best guess. Ready, set, go. This one was a little tricky. 1/3 of a cup constitutes 1 serving of shredded cheese. Now, cheese is a tricky one. Cheese can be shredded, it can be in cubes, it can also be in a slice. So it's kind of hard to tell how much serving size is cheese. How about we try doing cubed cheese? How much is 1 serving? Ready, go. Cube cheese is kind of a tricky one. How did you do? We'll talk in a little bit how you can tell what ounces look like, because ounces are a weight, so it's a little harder to tell rather than just a measurement. So we'll talk in a minute about how you can tell how much ounces are constituted in cheese portions. All right, your next option to choose from is cottage cheese. Maybe you like cottage cheese. How much do you think is 1 serving? Ready, go. This was a tricky one. The correct answer is 2 cups. How many of you chose 2 cups? If you did, you are correct. 2 cups is 1 serving of dairy foods. All right, your very last one. Let's see how well you do. Yogurt. Ready? Go. How'd you guys do? Did you do pretty well at guessing what one serving size looks like? Now, it's kind of hard to tell what a serving size looks like because you probably don't have measuring cups in your backpacks or in your pockets when you go to a friend's house or restaurant or a cafeteria at your school for lunch. So it's easier when you can compare it to something that you're familiar with. So that's what we'll be doing right now. So we talked about milk and yogurt being 1 cup of a serving size. And 1 cup looks very similar to a baseball, which you're probably pretty familiar with. 1 cup is about 1 baseball. So when you're drinking your milk or having a yogurt, if they're not portioned into 1 size servings, you can imagine your cup looking about like a baseball being in it. And that will give you a close idea or an estimation of what 1 cup looks like. Now, one thing in the dairy group is a lot of the foods in this group also contain fat and cholesterol. And these things are not good for your heart, which is why only 3 servings a day gives your body the benefits without the negativity that comes along with this group. Another food that gives us lots of calcium but also has some of those negative impacts would be cheese. And cheese can look very different like we talked about before. It can be like string cheese, it can be cut in cubes or slices or shredded. And for this reason, the cheese servings look much different compared to each other. Now, if you're having shredded cheese, say on nachos or a taco or some type of other meal, about 1/3 of a cup is 1 serving of shredded cheese. And this is kind of a trickier one, but if you just imagine about 1/3 of a size of a baseball, that kind of gives you a rough estimate as to how much shredded cheese you should be having. Now, when it comes to solid cheese, like a chunk of cheese, you can imagine 2 plain dice. Now, 2 dice together weigh roughly 1 ounce, and 1 ounce is a serving that gives you lots of calcium without too much of those negative things that come along with eating cheese and some of the foods in the dairy group. Now, here's a tricky one. If you were to have ice cream, how much do you think 1 serving would be? We probably wish 1 serving of ice cream looked like 2 or 3 cups, but actually 1 serving of ice cream is only 1/2 of a cup. Isn't that small? Like half of a baseball. And that looks pretty accurate when we're comparing this baseball next to our ice cream scoop, that just half of that baseball is how much ice cream you should be having. So next time you have dessert, think about that portion size and have a little bit less so that your body isn't getting too much of the negative and you're giving your body the good stuff, the calcium and the vitamin D, and laying off of it too much added sugar and those negative things that come along with the dairy group. Today for our snack demonstration, we're going to be making yogurt parfaits. This is probably a recipe you've made before. It's very simple, but I want to show you how versatile it is and how you really can create any delicious combination. So to make a yogurt parfait, if you're not familiar, first you obviously need yogurt, and I have lots of different flavors of yogurt here that would each be delicious and really can be on your preference, what type you would prefer to have. Now remember that the healthiest option would be plain yogurt, and the reason for this is plain yogurt doesn't have any added sugar. So it's our healthiest option, right? It's giving us all the calcium and vitamins of yogurt without all the added sugar, which is bad for our teeth and obviously not good for our bones either. But flavored yogurt is also a tasty way that we can add flavor to our parfait if you don't prefer that tartness of the plain yogurt. But this one is a great way you can sweeten up with the additives to what you're making in your parfait. A great thing to add to a yogurt parfait is different type of fruits. And I did a combination of different foods here. I have frozen strawberries, so you can do food that's out of your freezer if fruit's too expensive and not in season, or if you just have fruit in your freezer at all times, you always can make a parfait. So I have frozen strawberries and frozen blueberries, and then I also have these cuties, little mandarin oranges, and these can come fresh and they can also come from a can. So you can get fruit to add sweetness to your parfait without having to be too particular of where you're getting your fruit source from. And then I have some granola, which is my favorite to add to fruit parfaits. But you also have the option of adding like some cereal. These are some frosted covered Cheerios, and they would also be really tasty in a yogurt parfait, and it's just adding a little bite, a little bit of texture to it, and just kind of making it a little more interesting. And then I also have some protein foods that we're going to be adding to our parfait. I have some chia seeds, and these are just little black chia seeds, and these have a lot of protein in them, and they're vegetarian and vegan if you or someone that's making this food would want to prevent and getting some protein added in there too. And I also have some peanut butter as well. Now, peanut butter might seem a little odd, and with certain flavors it probably would taste a little gross, but you could do plain yogurt and sweeten it with peanut butter and maybe a drizzle of honey, and maybe you could add some fruit and it would be kind of like a peanut butter and jelly parfait. So you can be super creative here. Anything you have at home. Coconut's another yummy thing you could add. I don't know, you really can be as creative as the things you have at home. You just mostly need to have some yogurt for your dairy, which is your base, and then you can add and experiment and see things that taste good. I also have a glass cup, which you don't have to have, but you can layer it and make it look really pretty. So if you want to try that, then you can. I think I have, let's see, strawberry, blueberry, cherry, and plain. I think I'm gonna do strawberry yogurt today. This is my favorite kind of yogurt. So I'm just going to spoon some of this yogurt into my cup and then just start layering different things. And I can do this in any way, in any pattern I want. I'm gonna add some strawberries first and maybe some granola. And I think I'm gonna add some chia seeds here. They don't really have a lot of flavor, but they do add kind of a crunchy bite. It's kind of like poppy seeds in a poppy seed muffin. They just add a little crunch, but they don't really add any flavor. So there's my first layer. Now I'm going to spoon on another layer, do some more strawberry, and you could even alternate flavors here, maybe doing blueberry next or plain yogurt. You could just be as creative as you want. Now I'm gonna add some blueberries to this layer, maybe some of these frosted Cheerios too. Add a little sweetness and a little crunch. And I think I'm gonna skip protein for this one. Let's go back and do another layer. More strawberry yogurt. I'm gonna add some oranges and break them up so they're a little easier to eat. And maybe a few more strawberries just because I have them in my bowl. So maybe you can think of foods that you already have at your house that you could create this for a healthy snack. And yogurt is super inexpensive. You can buy 2 of these for $1, or one of these is a couple dollars, and it has, let's see how many cups here. It has like 10 cups added into here. So that's a lot of yogurt for a lot of different snacks. And maybe a little mix here. I'll do some granola, some cereal, some chia seeds, and look how pretty that looks. All different kinds of colors and flavors and textures. Super delicious. Today for your outdoor activity, we will be having a jumping competition. Remember, jumping is a great exercise that adds impact and strength to your bones. So along with eating dairy foods and practicing our healthy recipe, jumping is another way that we can add strength to our bones. And so we will be competing against people in your class for who is the highest jumper. The class will be split in 2 girls and boys, and they will compete against one another for the winning person. So you'll be paired up in groups, and you'll be given a marker from the PE teacher, and you will jump and see who can place their marker the highest. The winner out of 3 jumps will progress to the next level, and the levels will continue until there are 2 people remaining. The highest jumping boy and the highest jumping girl in the class will receive a prize for their strong bone efforts, and hopefully you can practice doing these jumps and exercises at home to add strength to your bones from the dairy group and also from adding exercise from jumping. So let's head outside and practice this important exercise to strengthen our bones.